cases to serial killers, missing persons, and more.
100% he did this.
I'd go off into fantasy world.
How much more lucky can you get that you're not on death row?
You want to know what we know.
My name is Jay. This is Guilty of Crime.
Hello, everybody. I see you, Carly. Thank you for being here. Let me share this, and then we'll talk about Laken Riley, and we'll do more information on her. If you didn't get a chance to watch it, we'll just do a quick recap. And in the tagline, it says Laken Riley. She was 22 years old, Georgia nursing student, slain while jogging. Now, when I did the first bit of information, you guys, it was very political. Not to say that it's not still political, but I really want to go over the facts now and tell more of a story. So you can see her up there. I can zoom in a little bit better. Hey, Jer13, good to be back. Now, I want to tell you all something. Nobody told me my camera sucked before. I had it set at like the lowest settings. So now I have it set higher and hopefully it's better. I had it at like, I don't know if it was 480 or what the heck, but hopefully it's better. I got it all the way up to 1080. Hey, Roxy and Carly, you got to tell me those things. I'm counting on you, day one. My day one guilty of crime girl. So just thought I'd give you a little laugh there. I fixed the camera settings, and today we're talking about Laken Riley again. Now, to recap what we talked about before, I'm just going to zoom in on her so you can see this beautiful girl. Now, Laken Riley was a 22-year-old Georgia University student, went out for a jog and was very close to home, and she got brutally murdered. You can see here that the suspect that murdered her, Jose Ibarra, he was accused of disfiguring the skull of her, and we're going to go over the arrest affidavit after I go over the new updates today, because now they've done an autopsy. So Riley went missing out on a jog on Thursday morning, and then they found her. Authorities believe Ibarra did not know Riley, and it was an opportunity killing. So you ask, I was scrolling down, let me put her picture back on. You might ask, if you did not watch the first episode, Mod Boss is slacking. Yes, the day ones. I am going to get some black hoodies with Guilty of Crime. I always say everybody is guilty of crime. They just don't get caught, everybody. So, but if you're not guilty of crime, that's cool. You're guilty of crime-er, and you're here watching. So we're talking about Laken Riley today, Georgia nursing student that was slain. And the deal was, this went political. My first video talked about why it was so political, and it was because this guy was not from the country. He shouldn't have been in here. He had already been in trouble for other prior arrests, and ICE was supposed to control the border a lot better. It didn't get controlled better, and I told you, I wish you guys, if whoever saw this, Jer13, did you see this? And hello, Roxy. I haven't seen you here before, so I'm going to say hello to you, give you a shout out. If you guys watch this with me, Jer13, you remember I called it out. I said, I'll put this on here so I'm not worried about you seeing me. I said that Biden was going to come back the next day and make a statement, and he did. It went political. Yes, thank you. It went political, and they wrote a note. They wrote a letter to Biden, and that's not what we're talking about today, but I'm just doing a recap because I was right. I absolutely knew that that was going to happen, and they fired shots back. The morning I woke up the following day, Biden sent out a message, and his message was about the the border control and how he was going to work on border control. So I won't get into that. You guys can look at all the political stuff, but he sure enough did. Now we're getting into more of a different kind of thing. I'm going to show you that just real quick. The actual document that I had put on before and the letter, just so you can see. Now they're working on border control. Anthony Greedo channel. Thank you. Thank you, Roxy. I appreciate that. I hope you love this channel because we have all things true crime, which Anthony is going to get into as soon as this Delphi case is not all consuming, I'm sure. And I'll probably be on his channel a lot more. So this case got really political, and I normally don't get into politics like that. But I had to because I believe that border control really should be controlled. And I think that if we're doing a bad job, it should be addressed. And so this turned into politics and shots were fired. So this is the guy that did the killing, Jose Antonio Ibarra. He should have been gone. ICE did not enforce it. Jose Ibarra was a 26-year-old citizen of Venezuela. He was arrested by U.S. Customs and Border Patrol on September 8th. Now, remember, this is September 8th, 2022. This didn't happen until February of 2024. After unlawfully entering the United States near El Paso, Texas, he was paroled and released for further processing. On September 14th, Ibarra was arrested by New York Police Department and charged with acting in a manner to injure a child less than 17 and a motor vehicle violation. No big deal. But if you're not supposed to be in this country, it is a big deal. And you should not be here. You should be kicked out, and this should never happen. Now, if you have your paperwork and you're here and you're a law-abiding citizen, by all means, be in the country freely. But on February 23rd, 2020, an ERO Atlanta encountered Ibarra pursuant to his arrest by the University of Georgia Police Department, being charged with murder and other crimes that we're going to get into. So I already did a video on this, and you all should. Yeah, this isn't the first time. You all should check out the video. I feel like I'm lagging here. I can see myself lagging on here, so I may have to change the settings a little bit back down until I get my connection hardwired this weekend. So when I get it hardwired this weekend, I will go full 1080. But it's showing a lag on here. So you guys all know I've only started doing this YouTube thing about 6 weeks ago. I was changing settings, everybody. So I don't know if you could see me now. Let me go back up. Can you see me now? Okay. So I was changing my settings and I don't know what happened. Hopefully it's going to bring me back on here soon. I'm all out of the settings. Carly, tell Anthony I sent him some stuff. Oh, that's great. Can you see me, Carly? Because I changed the settings and then I went away. Let me come back up and see if it's showing me. I'm going to try closing it, opening it back up, and I don't see anything. So let's go back to the presentation here. Yeah, what happened? I was trying to do better with my video, and so it was just kind of a tester. See, I don't know if you can see. You see her face, but it's frozen. Maybe I shouldn't have changed the settings in the middle of it. The presentations are working, but my face isn't. Okay. Well, you can see Jose Ibarra here. I might have to leave and then come right back in, and I hate doing that. But if that is happening, then it says having issues. I changed the settings back down, and then that happened. So I don't know if, let's see. Let me see. If you can't see me now, then I will back out. Okay, you see me. Okay. I guess I just can't see myself, and whatever. It's just a black screen. Maybe it'll fix itself. So let's get back into this. If you can't, let me know. Jose Ibarra shouldn't have been in here. And what I'm getting to is this piece of shit shouldn't have been here. Even his brother was arrested. So both of these guys shouldn't have been in this country. They were here not to take away from Laken Riley. Government Kemp addressed the murder of Laken Riley. And now I am going to tell you, and then we'll get into it. State of Georgia, the office of the governor sent a direct letter to Biden. You'll have to go back to my other video and watch it. And I knew it. I called it out that night, that the next morning that Biden was on News Nation. I stopped sharing that. We're going to come back here. So he was on News Nation. And after that, he addressed the country, and he's going to tighten the borders. My face is still frozen. So the rest of the screen is not frozen. We see you, but your face. Okay. So what I'm going to do here, guys, is I'm going to come back into StreamYard. Hopefully I shouldn't have changed the settings in the middle of it. Let me see if this helps. And if it doesn't, then guess what? I'm going to have to come back in. So let's try it. All right, here I am, everybody. So there we go. If I glitch out a little bit, we're testing, and my camera was really terrible before, and I didn't want that. So let's get into I could see myself now. You should be able to see me. Let's talk about this, and I'm going to go ahead and show you the update. I want to show you the real trail that's happening. We're back with Court TV and listening to some things. So let's.
University in Athens, Georgia. Laken had recently transferred from the neighboring University of Georgia because she wanted to be a nurse. Laken was also a runner. She competed in cross country in high school and continued running recreationally in college. On February 22nd, she decided to take a morning run. She headed over to the running paths near the intramural fields in Lake Herrick on the UGA campus. When she didn't return from her morning run, her roommate called police. Laken's body was found less than an hour later near Lake Herrick. The initial investigation revealed she died from blunt force trauma and her skull was disfigured. Investigators worked quickly and identified a suspect through surveillance video, which showed a suspect wearing a very specific hat. Next, they located a man fitting the description who was wearing the hat. That suspect, Diego Ibarra, was detained for having a fake green card, but not implicated in Laken's abduction and murder. Instead, investigators arrested his brother, Jose Ibarra, who also entered the country illegally. Tonight, we return to the scene as we investigate the murder of Laken Riley.
All right, so they're further investigating.
I'm Vinny Politan. Thank you so much for joining us tonight here on Closing Arguments. And this case...
Yeah, this case is crazy. And guess what, everybody? They did not pick this up for a little while. When I came on about the case, there was nothing on it that I could find. My presentation was me talking and news clips. I had a letter from the governor to the president, and then the next day the president came out addressing the border control. So there was nothing on it. I just kind of found it in the little cracks that we do, and now there is. So I want to share it with you. I might I might fast forward through some of the stuff or go faster. But I want to share this with you. You'll see the actual trail, how far he was from the trail, and then the affidavit I'm going to go back to so you can see what he was charged with, because I love this stuff, and I know you all do too.
Clearly on the national forefront, the national conversation, the brutal murder of this young woman, Laken Riley. And the bottom line is we all lost here. We all lost. You know, for the students and the family, obviously the loss is devastating. But when you think about who this young woman was and what she was going to do, you know, we're in a country where we have a shortage of nurses, people that aren't going into the profession of healthcare. And that's what she wanted to do. So you think about how many other people have been impacted by this because she won't be able to help them get better, won't be able to help them through a really difficult time working as a nurse, because that's who she is. She was someone who wanted to make people's lives better, wanted to make people's days better, wanted to help people stay alive. And that's how we all lost in this. We absolutely did. And as we think about the suspect in this case and what happened to Laken, the question is why? Why?
We're going to go a little faster.
What was this about? What was this about? If in fact, this is the man responsible for what happened to Laken. Like, why would you do that?
Okay, so now we know that he is the man responsible. So he's been charged, but he has not been convicted. So we know he's the guy. They have him held, and Vinny's giving his thoughts. I gave my thoughts in the first video. I'm back here to show you all the trail and all the real thing. So yeah, healthcare is, peace to you and love and all of that, Jackie, for being in healthcare. I have a friend that's like a sister, and she is a nurse. She's also a nurse in the military. So kudos to her, love, all of that. You guys are doing the best and good people, helping other people instead of somebody like this guy why? It was honestly just a crime of opportunity. I'm speeding up some of what he's saying because, it's Vinny and we're watching me. So
is this some sort of sociopath? The old looking for an opportunity to strike, and he just can't control himself. He has these impulses inside, this evil inside that he has to act upon. Is this someone who was perhaps stalking this young woman and then, had some sort of sexually driven, crazed thoughts in his mind, and maybe he attempted to act upon them? I don't know. I don't know why you would do this. It makes no sense. It makes zero sense.
It doesn't, Vinny,
but I think that's a big part of
let's get into the story. So we're going to get into the story. We're going to return to the crime scene and see what it's about. So we want to hear what you're saying, but we also want to hear
Thomas, who joins me now on set, was in Athens, Georgia today. Great to see you, Cody. Let's start at the area where her body was discovered.
This is what I want you to hear.
What did you notice? What was it like there?
So we were there on East Campus at UGA today. One thing to note, when I first arrived at Lake Herrick, I noticed a lot of tennis courts. I noticed a lot of people bustling around, and I was looking and I thought to myself, this can't be, where somebody get murdered in broad daylight like you were just mentioning.
Because all the reports that we've heard, this happened, her body was found near Lake Herrick.
Right.
Does that sound familiar to any of you? Broad daylight, outside, maybe train tracks, middle of the day. Yeah, it does. And we're heavily into the Delphi case as it gets closer. This was in the middle of the day, just like that, right by the campus, normal day, and this is what happened. So it's my dog wants to weigh in, obviously. Here, let's keep listening.
Come to find out, as I'm walking through, I'm talking to some students that are around in the parking lot. If you go to UGA, there's Lake Herrick, then there's a little Lake Herrick. Little Lake Herrick, a little more secluded, a little more in the brush. And it's more of a pond. It kind of looks like a retention pond, but they still call it Little Lake Herrick.
And is that what we're looking at right now?
That is exactly what you're looking at. So you see, it's not as big as what you would think a lake.
No,
really
when I looked on the map and I looked at Lake Herrick, I saw a pretty large body of water.
Exactly.
And that's next to the tennis courts. This thing is off the beaten path a bit.
Of course.
So it's a little more secluded, which makes more sense.
Exactly.
Right? If you're dragging a body at the big lake, someone's going to see it.
With ease. Because when I was there looking around, there was people walking their dogs, again, playing pickleball, playing tennis, shooting basketball, tons of people around. And that's when like I said, I thought to myself, this can't be it. So this right here is the Little Lake Herrick spot. And interesting enough, that is where Jose Ibarra's apartment's back up to.
It's right near this smaller area. Okay, right, so how far is it from the suspect in this case, where he's living with his brother, to where Laken's body was found?
I would say a football field tops, 100 yards, maybe even less. From the complex, there's a little paved pathway. You come down, and there's student housing right there. There's student housing literally right there.
So where he lives isn't student housing, though, right? It's regular apartment?
Where he lives is a regular apartment, but it's feet away from.
So you can hear it's feet away, and this is really scary, everybody. I keep your headphones out, keep one headphone out at least. I heard Vinny saying on another video, Sadie's mama. He didn't say Sadie's mama, but I did. I heard Vinny saying, don't wear headphones. That's not realistic. Wear headphones, wear one in so you can hear. If you can go with a friend, go with a friend. I'm not going to say where I live because I don't want all that, but I live right by a little tiny lake like that. And it's just a couple of, I can walk right there and walk around. There's a pond and a trail. And that's exactly what that looks like right in the middle of the day. My mom, that's 69 years old, goes there and she goes and walks for 7 miles at a time. So this is really scary for me to see something like this. And this is a 22-year-old girl that could have easily fought him off versus my 69-year-old mom that's in good shape, but you could definitely take over if you were that guy. He brutally murdered her. All right, let's keep listening.
Where students on campus live. I mean, students are getting on and off the bus as we were there. And then you cross over a railroad track and you get down to the real dirt trails. And we actually took a walk on those trails today. And I kind of pointed out some of the important things that I thought were something people should take note of. And we could take a look at that right now.
Let's take a look.
Let's take a look.
Now we're here on UGA, beginning on their east campus. Here at this apartment complex, this is where Jose Ibarra, the alleged killer of Laken Riley, and his brother Diego lived, both who are now in custody. And what I'm standing on right now is that popular cut through. We've talked to some students since we've been out here. A popular cut through down to the intramural fields. This paved path that they use as a shortcut to get down to the paths that circulate Lake Herrick. As we continue walking down, we've only seen a few, 2, maybe 3 runners come by, some people walking their dogs. But one thing to note when we get down here on this paved pathway, to my left right here, that's student housing. As you can see, there's a UGA bus right here, a campus bus dropping off kids, picking up kids. Security cameras, if you look closer. These are the only sets of security cameras we've seen since we've been here so far. Which means if you're out of that range here on your own, every location on your phone, no matter if people know where you are, that's the only range of security camera footage that they have, that we've seen thus far.
Which is pretty good that they caught him right away. So he's showing this trail, and at the park that we have is just like this, except it goes miles and miles and miles. I've ridden my bike back there before, and it goes all the way up into a trail that goes up into an ATV park. That's how big it is. Yet you see people walking on it and all that stuff. So like I said, it's scary because it looks just like that. There's cameras in the entrance area because they make you pay to go in. Like they make you pay for parking. If you walk in, you don't have to pay, obviously, but it's the same thing. And it's even bigger than this. And I don't see cameras on the trail because it's just nature, right? We should be able to enjoy nature.
As we continue on down this path that Laken Riley took, you see we have a biker thing, somebody down there walking their dog. As we continue down, if you look this way towards the woods, that's where the paths and the wooded trails begin. Here at the intramural fields around Lake Herrick. And if you look closer, you can see that is the path that she took on her final run that morning in February. Now we've just come down that path, down from Jose Ibarra's apartments up toward the street. And as we stand here, one thing to note, there's no fence, there's no barrier, there's no wall between those apartments and these trails that lead to the intramural fields, which means we can access these trails. As we come across this railroad track, we come down these stairs, coming down this popular cut through that students use to get to the trails around Lake Herrick. You can see on either side of me, the brush is very thick, it's a little shaded, and it's a little occluded. Ample opportunity for somebody to hide. Now we get on down the trail a little bit more, and we see that it diverges off in 3 different directions. Now, as we were walking out here a little bit before.
Do you see how scary that looks? That actually looks creepy. I didn't even watch this today. I was watching it with you all. I saw the beginning where I knew they were going to show an update since last week. And this actually looks fairly unsafe for being right by the university and the campus. Ours, they keep a lot more trimmed back and a lot more clear where there's not, well, because animals could also get to you too. But yeah, this is a bit creepy. This is a little bit scarier than I thought it would be. And the fact that anybody could just come off a side path. Ours is actually paved until you go a lot farther. And then once you go a lot farther, it turns into dirt. So they keep it paved because bikers around here, they are training for these big marathons, or I don't know what you call a race. I'm not a biker. I love riding bikes, but they train for actual races back behind my house where I live. So yeah, this is a little bit creepy, and there's a lot of things that could be hiding in here, even besides people. Let's keep watching.
We saw one, maybe two runners going from this direction down to that direction, which led us to believe this is the path that Laken Riley took down to the pond. And again, as we continue down this trail, very secluded, lots of woods, lots of brush, very dense brush. It would be hard to imagine somebody crawling in there and trying to catch somebody by the element of surprise, but we never know until more information comes out. Now we continue down. It's a little rough, a little edgy down here. Maybe one or two runners we saw before, but this is the trail that people walk their dogs on, students jog on, that lead down to the pond here on Lake Herrick. So we just left that long stretch of land around the trail over there, maybe a quarter-mile long, little less than that. Right. Somewhere along this path is where Laken Riley was brutally attacked by Jose Ibarra. His apartments are right up there. Now, as I come around this corner and get to this spot right here, it starts to look pretty open. Yeah. You know, there's trees, there's brush, but
they keep it
as I pan from left to right, it seems as if you would be able to see if somebody was out of place, if something was out of the ordinary.
Absolutely.
Now, something to note, this is supposedly supposed to be a popular trail by students to run here, but we've been here maybe an hour and a half now. We've only seen 3, 4, maybe 5 people tops. And one last thing to note, there's no security cameras. There's a light post over there, power lines, but no security cameras. So even if you do have your location on, or your friends to track or your family to track, they know you're out here on a run, it's still up to you for your own protection. Now, ultimately, to my left is where Laken Riley's body was found. Right here, this is the wooded area that the police reports talk about.
Do you see that, everybody? If you're watching it, let me know that you see that, how open that was. I thought they were going to show her body in the back where all the trees were coming in, but they absolutely didn't. They found her right out in the open. That was the trail that was actually kept up and not so wooded. So that's crazy that they saw that, or we thought it was going to be one thing, and then it was just an open path, and then her found on the rocks. So yeah, keep in mind, everybody. I know a lot of you guys like to jog for anxiety and to get exercise, and all these things seem really nice, but you gotta be careful. Be careful.
About this is the gravel spill where all the police tape was roping everything off. There's still remnants of it here, and as you come over here to this rock, you can see some type of vigil, some type of memorial, a couple of flowers, and a smiley face painted here, probably by friends, family, even community members, honoring the loss of life of Laken Riley.
So the one thing that I'm noticing as you're walking down that initial path from the apartment, as you get to those railroad tracks, I mean, that's like, there's nothing there.
Nothing.
And even the path itself is sort of almost made by just people walking through there. It's not a formal, like that's a formal pathway. But as we're retracing in here, it gets rougher and rougher. She was a cross-country runner.
Right.
So she'd be able to run through this. She's used to running through this. That's what you do.
Most people are used to running through that, and we shouldn't have to worry about that stuff. But look at that brush and look at how many places there can be for somebody to hide. And for somebody to see somebody every day. Yeah, now going to a female-only gym, that's probably the best bet. When you go to another gym, sometimes you get guys picking up on you. And fresh air nowadays, everybody, it's overrated. I'm in the house sitting here on YouTube doing this, getting stuck on there. But you know what? I'm probably pretty safe unless my roof collapses in on top of me. Let's watch.
That's what cross-country runners do.
And what I was thinking as we were walking down this path, I thought we were getting lost, you know, because I saw a bunch of brush, as I pointed out in there. it all started seeming like it was coming together. And I was asking myself, like, are we in the right spot? Is this? But then I saw somebody, like I said, I saw somebody run from right to left. And I was like, oh, let's follow that. And then that's when we found the pond.
So this is, and we get back to your first point. We're talking about little Lake Herrick, not the big one. Because this was first described as near the intramural fields, right? So that's the general area. But when you really get specific, it's much more remote.
Exactly. And from where we were standing at, you can't even see those fields. Now, like I said, when we first pulled up and we saw the tennis courts and the basketball courts and people walking their dogs, everything was hustling and bustling. You know, you could see the big Lake Herrick right off in the background. That's where the pavilion is. That's where.
Okay, so there's a big Lake Herrick and a little Lake Herrick, and that's where the little Lake Herrick is where she actually got murdered, and she got murdered right out in broad daylight, everybody, and not even in the brush or anything. It was right on a path that was kept up on, and it was right there in the rock. So what they're saying is really good information, and I appreciate this from them because everybody nowadays, especially these university kids, folks, people that use the trails, even my mom that goes out there on these trails right there in open daylight. I always say be safe, but there's nothing you could do in broad daylight if somebody wants to be evil and brutally attack you. Now, on another note, especially somebody that shouldn't even be in this country that's already been in trouble and should have been sent back. All right, let's keep.
You know, the memorial and vigil and stuff was held where the signage was that says this is Lake Herrick. But back there at that pond, like you said, nothing.
Nothing.
Zero.
Right. The surveillance cameras that you showed
That
look
makes
like
more
almost,
sense.
Not like temporary to a certain extent, like they were popped up for a particular reason to keep students safe because, and that's really to keep the students safe at the housing?
That's exactly what I was gonna say. Because as you saw, it was his apartment, you come down that paved shortcut, that cut through, and then you look over and you see the student housing. And those cameras are on the student housing parking lot, which leads me to think that, you know, UG goes for that purpose, not necessarily people cutting through that apartment complex and running back on those trails, more specifically for those people getting off the bus, going in their dorm rooms, getting on the bus, going to class.
And what's significant is like they have video, they say they have video,
right?
But the first person they took into custody wasn't the suspect, it was his brother. Now, obviously there's gonna be similarities between the two, but they were.
Yeah, this is interesting that they did that. Him and his brother got arrested. Now, his brother isn't related to the murders at all, but he's on other charges. He got taken in on other charges, and neither one of them should have been in this country, people. I'm all for having open border to people that follow the laws and that are respectful and not planning to do crime. But if you're already doing crime and you're in my country, I want you out of here. I'm sorry. If somebody doesn't like that, what I'm saying, then don't be on this channel. That's just how I feel. I also feel that I have the right to bear arms. And if you come on my property, I'll use those arms.
We're able to pick up the very specific he got. So we had to get somewhat close, or these might be pretty good cameras, and it's daylight. So you're gonna have the best lighting possible.
Right, and it was, like I said, once you get off that paved path and you look to your left, you could see it right there. So to my knowledge, to what I saw, based on the path that I walked down there, it was from his apartment complex to where Laken Riley was found, 5 minutes flat. I recorded the whole thing at a normal pace, 5 minutes. But right when you get down that cut through, those are the only cameras we saw. So to my knowledge, those are the only cameras that could have picked them up.
I would think those are the ones where they were able to get this video because it's close to where you are.
Wow, that guy's, see, that's what I want to do. I want to be out there and being able to do the footwork. I don't want a crime right behind my house where I can walk 5 minutes to, but I want to walk there and do a camera or get a camera and show you. Now, I do want you to know, and we'll get back to the case. First of all, I want to know who that guy is. I'm not sure if they said, but that's good that he did that and he showed us. Second of all, I have my gun ready in the car to go shooting and film it for you all so you can see the markings on it. And there will be a part 2 to my first one. But I had the gun in the car ready to go shoot, and my daughter called me and said she wasn't feeling good. So I had to come home, and instead I'm with you all. So keep liking, subscribing, sharing, all that stuff.
The only ones that are in this area. Now, initially, again, if it was near the intramural fields, there might be many more cameras.
Many more provided by UGA, you know.
All right. Now, you mentioned you saw, maybe a handful of people during the morning. How
I
about
think that was the problem.
Were you able to talk to them? How are they feeling about all this?
The aura in the atmosphere when I was there was that people are trying to move on. They talked to us. Obviously, sometimes when cameras get brought out, some people don't really want to talk on that kind of record. So they told us, nothing like this has happened. We saw people from the community, people that said they've walked this trail hundreds of.
Now, this is part 2 of the first segment, everybody. So remember, if you don't know what the hell I'm talking about, or you don't understand why we're playing this, you got to go back to my first episode in the Laken Riley video where it talks about border control, and then I tell you the story of it. But this is the second part, and we're showing you where she lived, how far Ibarra was away. Ibarra is the one that murdered her, short walk away, and the actual trail.
Of times, one guy said he was a former professor that said he walked this trail for the last 30 years. Nothing like this has ever happened. But we did finally speak with one student who described the day when he found out Laken Riley was murdered. He said him and his friends were actually headed to the intramural fields, but chose not to go.
Wow. Let's take a listen.
Yeah.
So that day we were actually about to go play pickleball at about 12:30, and that's about the time that she was found, and we were thinking about coming over here to play instead of going over to where we usually play, but we ended up deciding to go over where we usually play. And then so we were just playing for a few hours, and then once we finished playing, one of us got on our phones and saw that there had been like something about a murder, and then we were like, what's this? And then we got a bunch of UGA emails and alerts sent out to us. And we were like, oh, this is like legit. And then when we were driving back over here, we saw the police helicopter circling and stuff like that. It was just, surreal to see and believe that that actually happened here.
What's the atmosphere been like since this has happened?
They're a little more apprehensive about things, I would say, like coming out here and running like at odd times, early in the morning, late at night. It's a little more apprehensive to go up there. And I always don't run without headphones or do stuff like that, to be a little more cautious about things, to not have this happen and stuff like that. Would you come out here and run yourself now?
Of course.
Not now, not knowing what's happened out there, and now coming back here walking, seeing how desolate it is.
I'm surprised he didn't say, I'm a man. Of course I'd come out here and walk. No, nobody is, nobody's exempt from a crime happening to them. However, you know what, Juror 13, this happens almost every day in the news and we don't even see it. So women all the time are running on trails somewhere or doing some kind of exercise outside and they get attacked, unfortunately. But since we know that, we know we can prevent it. So you heard me before, prevent it, go with someone, put one earphone in, and don't go in the very back where over the course of an hour, he only saw 4 or 5 people. Be there with more people, please.
I wouldn't take that chance to stay in a more populated area, which we are still close to populated areas. This is just probably the most secluded part of campus.
That is incredibly sad, right? Think about that. Now, a lot of times when things like this happen on a campus, in a school, are there any changes that you noticed on campus?
Oddly enough, there were. When we walked down that path from his apartment complex, like I mentioned, there was no fence. There's nothing separating the general public from UGA's intramural fields. We came across some construction workers who kind of waved, nodded at us. We talked to them about what we were doing. They said they were clearing off a bunch of branches, fallen leaves, and debris because there's a possible fence that's going to get put up, separating the apartment complex.
I wonder why.
From access to those dirt trails that end up leading to Little Lake Herrick and subsequently Big Lake Herrick.
Wow. Cody, great work. Cody Thomas,
Good job,
TV
Cody.
producer. Appreciate it. Thank you so
Yes,
much.
Sir.
All right, folks.
All right, now we know who that is. I, again, haven't watched this video. I don't know if he's talking any further about this. Let's see. And if not, we're going to go over the affidavit of what this guy was charged with. We didn't have that in the first video that I did. You go back, watch that, see the whole story and all the little facets and the people that knew her and the sad day. They caught him really quickly.
When we come back, we're going to take everything that Cody has brought in tonight and bring in our experts to get their take on what will the evidence be that they'll be able to get from here. What are those cameras going to show us? How are they going to be able to?
All right, let's watch it. We're not talking about that. Here is the expert. And we saw him on here last time. This guy is great.
Investigator Joseph Scott Morgan.
Joseph Scott Morgan. City,
which isn't in Michigan, it's in Indiana, private investigator and founder of Victims News Online. Erica Morris is with us. And in Salt Lake City, Utah, private investigator Jason Jensen. Great to have everyone
These are the people I love hearing from. They know what they're talking about. They go by the evidence. They're not speculating on anything. And Joseph Scott Morgan is one of my new favorite people, everybody. So let's take a listen at these guys and hear the real evidence and then the affidavit, and then we can wrap it up. I can also do another live tonight if we have. I do have a topic, actually. Scott Peterson, he got a new hearing, and it's a possibility of a new trial. I have more evidence on that, guys.
Want to hear. So I want to do this. Cody obviously provided this video and went to the scene. So I want to play some of the video showing the walk from the suspect's apartment to the scene where Laken was found. And as we're watching this, Joseph Scott Morgan, I'll begin with you. What strikes you as significant about the scene where this murder took place and in the gathering of evidence?
I think probably the first thing that jumps to mind, Ben, is the density of the area. I didn't expect it to be this thickly wooded around this path. Same thing. Also, I think this offers an opportunity, perhaps, if in fact the accused is a stalker of some kind, he may have been nesting in there. And this may have been a crime of opportunity, looking for someone that fit his type. And if that's the case, they might be able to find evidence that he had been doing this for days upon days upon days, just waiting for the right moment to strike.
Erica Morris, as we're walking this path, what are your thoughts tonight about the scene itself?
Joseph makes a great point about the potential for nesting. That could indicate evidence in an area. You could be looking for cigarette butts. You could be looking for a soda can. You could be looking for some type of an indication that somebody was lying there and waiting there for a potential victim to come forward. I'm also going to be looking for signs of a struggle. I'm going to be looking for things like blood, tears on branches. I'm going to be looking for areas that are disturbed, potential areas where I could get DNA, sweat, blood, because this was an aggressive struggle.
I agree. And I was just wondering what she was talking about when they said what to look for. For a minute, I thought they were talking about what to look for when you're out there. But let me clarify. She's saying what to look for when you're looking for the evidence from who the suspect is. Now, they caught the suspect the day later, which was amazing. But yeah, those are all clear signs. And I was going to say, wow, I didn't know she was actually talking about that, because we see that all the time, right? Whoever goes on trails, we don't even pay attention to it anymore, especially around a big city. You see a lot of people that are kind of squatting, and you don't see them there during the day, but you see all this potential that could be evidence: cigarette butts, cans, broken branches from them moving their stuff. So yeah, around here, I don't know how much evidence you would get from that, but let's listen to her. All these people are experts, and we're watching this for the first time together. I have not watched this, so let's watch it.
Jason Jensen, the other significant thing that Cody was talking about, again, as we continue on the path here, was passing the student housing, and there were cameras there as well. You've got that part of the evidence, and then you've got whatever you're going to be able to find along this pathway in this area.
Right, yes. In fact, the thing that struck me the most watching this and listening to Cody as he walks through the crime scene here is with the railroad tracks and their trail. I had a lot of reflection back to the Monon High Trail and what we're all familiar with, the Abby and Libby case, where the difference is where there was a video footage taken from a security system. They were able to act fast and identify the individual before he got too far away, as opposed to film footage that was discovered a couple days later.
Yes.
So Joseph Scott Morgan, and here's.
So I was going to stop on that, everybody. This Delphi case is now driving me absolute nuts. Hearing all this evidence and from all the different people and their perspective, I'm good with people's perspective, but sometimes enough is enough. It's like, okay, this is evidence we have. This is the evidence you didn't give me, and we'll see you in court. we'll have our theories. We can agree to disagree, but it just gets too much when people start fighting about it. We want real evidence, and luckily this man was caught the next freaking day. We'll hear that next, what he was charged for.
It's the little Lake Herrick, not the big one, the little one. This is the area. If there's this struggle, where would you expect to find evidence connecting the suspect to Laken?
Well, obviously, there's going to be a tremendous, there will be evidence. I won't say there will be evidence of struggle, but obviously, we think about primary scene in our work in death investigation. Primary scene is where the body is located, and then you have secondary and tertiary scenes. So anything that may have been the initial point of contact, if she was, I hate to paint this picture, but if she was struggling her feet, trying to fight against him, and he is moving her toward one location, you might be able to see some damage or gouging in the ground. Then, as was previously mentioned, drag marks. We have to have a pretty keen eye to pick up on this. But it did happen quickly, as Jason had pointed out, where they were able to identify a suspect. So that's a win in that particular column from an evidentiary standpoint. We don't know how much bloodshed at the scene, if any at all. I would imagine a significant amount, because as I'm sure we'll get to, we're talking about these injuries that were quite horrible. And looking at this area where the body was deposited,
very horrible,
where Laken's remains were deposited. This is one hell of a risk, Vin. We're not back in kind of the heavily forested area back here. We're talking.
I love this Joseph Scott Morgan. I can go to sleep to him, and I know his voice is very just monotone, but he's just telling us facts. And I know some of you, and I have, I'm guilty of that too. I'm guilty of going to these channels and listening to all these things and, hearing it out and talking. And then there's just a point where I just talk too much about the same thing, and I'm fighting with the same people, and I'm not really trying to fight. I'm trying to have an intelligent conversation, yet they're not. So look at this trail, look at this crime. The only difference between this crime and the Delphi one is that they caught the guy right away, and there's not all this speculation and people fighting with each other. Nobody is saying it's not this guy that did it. It's not this guy that wasn't supposed to be in this fucking country. Excuse me. This guy wasn't even supposed to be here. It wasn't him. Everybody's just like, yeah, get him out and let's go. But then we have the Delphi case, and we have people fighting over it. And oh my God, did I see some stuff today on the news about Richard Allen should be free. I'm on the opposite side of that. I think they have the right man, and I'm ready for court to begin. Let's do it. All right, let's keep going.
About an area that's well worn, and if that rock pile and that area where the riprap is and all of this, is that the area
where
she finally came to rest? Boy, this is really somebody that had either no situational awareness or was acutely aware that not too many people were passing by that time of day.
And Erica, that brings us to someone who has to know this area, right? To be confident to do what the killer did here, it wouldn't be your first time there. You kind of know a little bit, oh, this is where they go running, and you would have time. You would have opportunity without witnesses, because let me tell you, if there's a struggle going on and there's a couple of guys that are going for a run in the morning, or even women, they're going to intervene. They're going to help each other out on that campus, and must have known that there was time here, but you wouldn't know that if it's your first time there.
No, this does have rings of Moscow to it. And as Jason pointed out, this does have rings to the Monon Trail as well. In terms, we know that he lived within a stone's throw of where this crime took place. So clearly he was familiar with the area. He was probably somebody who walked that area, or as we'll find out later.
Does that sound familiar, everybody? It does. And look at this guy, though. He's not a white American guy that is okay to live there, working at a store, never had an arrest record. This guy does have an arrest record. and he wasn't supposed to be in this country. So look at this guy's face. He's not a Richard Allen. And I guarantee you, if this guy was the killer of Delphi, if he was a Delphi murder killer and they had him in jail, people would be saying, yeah, put him, let's go. It wouldn't be such a big thing. And it's a lot of politics. This is a lot of politics to this case. It brought out so many things. So let's keep watching. Look at his ugly face. He's evil, pure evil.
Because I caught something in that presser, key input from the community. That tells me they've talked to some witnesses. Doesn't necessarily mean someone witnessed the crime itself. They could have seen him walking towards the trail. They could have seen him acting suspicious that day. They could have seen two men, because I'm also wondering, why are they so focused on the brother? Are we potentially getting ready to see a second arrest? I don't know yet.
Well, one thing, Jason Jensen, that they talked about with the brother was they knew the specific hat that the killer was wearing, that the suspect was wearing, and the brother was wearing that exact hat. And that's why he was initially detained. They kept him because of the fake green card, his brother Diego. But initially, he was wearing the hat that they saw on the head of the suspect on that surveillance video. So, you know, I'm looking at this all of a sudden, I'm like, oh, I think I know what the defense is going to be here.
Yeah, it's interesting that the hat is what gave him away. So given the fact that they're brothers and they live in the same apartment, presumably they either both have the same type of hat because they, you know, shop the same place or visited the same location.
Shoplift at the same place would probably be more correct based upon the history that we know.
We love you, Vinny.
Sure. Or at least that if the brother was being arrested for that, he blamed his brother because he knew his brother just recently wore the hat.
Yeah, we're looking at the complex, which abuts right near this area. Joseph Scott Morgan, you know, getting into the mind of a killer is impossible. But if you live in this complex, it's a college town. There's student housing that is like a stone's throw away from here. Like, you know what's going on. You know who's going to be there, and you know that there's going to be folks running. You know this is a path. This is a guy who, you know, on the one hand is familiar. On the other hand, I guess got to town a little while ago after he had to abscond from New York when he got in trouble up there. But at the end of the day, the pieces seem to fit, right? That the killer would very likely come from there based upon the access, the ease, and the familiarity with those paths.
Yeah, there's some level of geographic comfort, if you will, relative to this. That's why I think that this idea of perhaps, and I'm sure that the GBI and the authorities in Athens, Clark County are considering all of this, had he been nesting in there. And there's one other kind of salient point here. I think, had there been any other attempts or similar attempts to this in the weeks leading up to this moment, I think that's going to be important. And in the apartment complex where the accused lived, I wonder if anybody picked up on the fact that maybe he was a lurker, maybe he was a creep, maybe he spoke to women in a very familiar tone, maybe disrespectful, that sort of thing. Anybody that's there that may have made.
Well, they didn't really have to do that. I don't know if Joseph Scott Morgan knows this, but this guy had already had multiple crimes and he shouldn't have been there. So he had already done something nefarious to a younger kid, and maybe he was quiet at the apartment complex, but he wasn't in the police department side. So I don't know if that's true or not, but we do know that, and I don't think Joseph is filled in on this, or I don't think he's filled in at all.
Made them acutely aware of his presence. And, you know, when they're going around, they're canvassing the area, the police are after this, and they're saying, hey, is there anybody here that really draws your attention? Oh, yeah. Yet this guy here, he lives in an apartment with his brother. We see him about. He just kind of sat.
Or maybe they looked up people with arrest records in the area is what they tend to do. Like if there's a child case, they'll look up pedophiles in the area and then they narrow it down that way. So they may have looked for people in the area that live there that have an arrest record, that have some sort of violence in their background. That's a good possibility. I haven't seen anybody come forward or them talk about a witness or anybody talk about that they even know this guy yet. But what we could do more if this case gets juicy and there's more information that comes out, it might just die down and there may be no trial. I don't know.
Sets us off. We don't know what it is, and you hear that lots of times, but there's something about him that doesn't add up or makes us uncomfortable. That's going to be important here as well.
Erica, I want to talk about the 911 call, right? She knew that there was trouble. She knew there was danger, and she had the phone with her, and she tried to make that call to 911. It connected. We don't know much else.
Yes. Did you guys, if you watched the first one with me, he actually got charged for that too. And we're going to go over the affidavit next. She called 911 and he disconnected the call and then he killed her. So she knew there was trouble. He did that. And they actually charged him with that as well, which is really freaking interesting when that happens. When you get it's not just, it's eerie when somebody calls 911 and then the killer disconnects the phone and then kills you. So
about it at this point. That will be a big part, I believe, of the evidence in the case, but also puts us into the understanding that at the moment this happened, she knew there was danger.
Correct. And she did everything right. Laken did everything absolutely right in terms of trying to protect herself in that moment. In doing some research on this case, I've learned a couple of things. Number one, that 911 call itself wasn't released. And the reason it wasn't released was because there's an indication that the death itself was recorded. That also tells me that this is going to be a key piece of evidence. Along with that cell phone itself, we could have DNA, we could have touch DNA from the killer, because one of the charges is obstructing that attempt to make an emergency call. So I'm expecting that, they've been testing that for touch DNA and they already have some results there.
I forgot about that.
Some blood, and we could have a voice match as well on that 911 call.
And Jason, and I'm thinking, I think the description, I don't know if it was you or Erica who said this, this is like taking the Idaho students case and combining it with what happened in Delphi. There's elements of both here.
Yes.
The victim has a phone and has the phone out calling 911, potentially.
So yeah, if you're a true crime person and you know all these cases, I always reference these cases. My dog's yelling at me. I always reference all the cases, all cross over and relate them because, yeah, I just watch all true crime and I'm really into what happens in the details of it. Let me play this for you while he's talking to me while I put my dog out.
Could have taken a picture as well. I don't know. We don't know. But her phone is going to speak volumes in this case as well.
Exactly. In fact, the thing that I find most disturbing about this is he just went back to the apartment and was just living out his life as if nothing traumatic just happened, that there wasn't the most horrific event that he was involved in, even impacted his thinking. So it's, the psychopathy.
Well, the psychopathy of it, that's what everybody seems to do. Everybody has that same question about the Delphi case. And I wonder what Richard Allen, he's accused and arrested. So I'm going to use Richard Allen. I wonder what Richard Allen did after he murdered the two girls. Did he go get something to eat? Did he go grab a drink? Did he go hang out with his wife? So yeah, what he brings up is very interesting about the psychopathy of a killer. And if you look to his right, he actually has Ted Bundy's picture from Salt Lake County and his arrest. And that was one of the ones, I believe that was one of the times that he escaped. So very interesting that he has that picture on his wall.
Yeah, this individual is going to be really up there for us all to consider.
And I think what we have to consider is this the first time? Is this the first time? Is this the first victim? Is this the only victim?
Yes, please.
Are there others? Is there someone in New York? Is there someone in Venezuela? Is there someone in between? Someone that could, so as you said, casually respond to what happened in such a violent act, such a violent, unprovoked act, could respond that way is chilling, is absolutely chilling. All right, our experts are going to stay with us. Joseph Scott Morgan, Erica Morse, Jason Jensen. When we come back, we're going to look at two things: crime of opportunity versus targeted attack, or maybe something in between. What exactly was going on here? We'll also take a look at some of the information that's been revealed in the arrest affidavits.
We'll do that ourselves with the arrest affidavits. But let's see what he says about if they think it was a crime of opportunity or what.
We are obtaining arrest warrants for Jose Antonio Ibarra, 26 years of age. He lives here in Athens, but is not a U.S. citizen. He has been charged with the following: malice murder, felony murder, aggravated battery, aggravated assault, false imprisonment, kidnapping, hindering a 911 call, and concealing the death of another.
There you
So
go.
in this case, the murder of Laken Riley, there are other charges, and these other charges may tell a story of what happened here. There's not a lot of facts that have been put out there by investigators or by prosecutors in any of the documents that have been.
Well, yeah, they do have like I said at the beginning, they've done an autopsy now. And when they first saw her, they knew that she was brutally beaten with something. And they think it may be a rock or something that he just picked up. So it probably was a crime, a opportunity crime. But now that they know, it was concentrated on her neck and her head in the autopsy. So we don't have that yet. There's no actual pictures with the way the people with the medical examiner and the autopsy, but we do know it was on the head, and the neck is where it was concentrated. So he probably tried to strangle her. He couldn't do that. He picked something up and he beat her with something. We just don't know what. He disfigured her face. So I'm assuming that it was going to be like a rock or something that was sharp, more than his fists, and maybe more than a stick that he found out there. Probably a rock, it sounds like. And this is me recapping from what I heard before and about the autopsy.
Filed yet, but on the arrest affidavit, again, you can paint a little bit of a picture, an outline of what may have happened to Laken. Let's take a look. The first charge is kidnapping, where a person abducts or steals away another person without lawful authority and holds such person against his or her will. So there's an abduction in this case. Aggravated assault. He assaults with the intent to murder by causing great bodily harm with an object. So there's some sort of a weapon used here. Aggravated battery, maliciously cause bodily harm to another person by seriously disfiguring her body or a member thereof by disfiguring her skull. Again, painting a picture, a violent picture of what happened to Laken Riley. Hindering 911 call, physically prevent or hinder another person with intent to cause physical harm from making or completing a 911 call. Again, painting a picture of what happened in this confrontation, this abduction, this assault, and then concealing the death of another, dragging the victim to a secluded area.
Now think about it, everybody. He might have also tried to kidnap her, and she fought back. We don't know that, but it sounds like he didn't do that. It was a crime opportunity. He saw her out there. There weren't people passing by. He knew it was a secluded area. And I think he may have tried to kidnap her. He lived really close, so he could have kidnapped her and took her back to his house had she not fought back. They haven't said anything about marks. I haven't seen the autopsy report yet, or just the medical examiner report where they show cuts and bruises on the hand. So I don't know how well she fought back or if she was able to, but she did call 911 and he took the phone from her and stopped that call. So she may have just not been compliant with him and he picked something up and beat her real bad because he was angry. That's what happens.
Okay. So let's put these pieces together. Joseph Scott Morgan, I'll begin with you. What do you have in your mind as to what happened here when Laken was attacked?
I think that probably the perpetrator thought that he was going to take her by surprise, but there's an awareness that goes to the phone call. But I think really important here, and this seems rather simple, but we really need to hone in on this. You cannot kidnap the dead. You cannot falsely imprison the dead. So that means he put hands on her, Vinny, and we know that based upon the ag assault and the ag battery charge. So he is physically in contact. I think even one of those items that you've read stated dragging her. That is an active event where he is dragging her away. We've touched on this, but it's very important from a forensic standpoint, because if we begin to think about touch DNA, or if he has injured himself, and we have a robust DNA sample that may have been deposited on her, her clothing is going to be immensely important in this case, Vin. And as to this object, this unnamed object, this weapon, I don't know, that goes to this idea of weapon opportunity, something that's lying about, or armed. Again, that goes to his mindset. And that's something I think that probably I'll leave it at this. I'm hoping that this object covered and that they just haven't made that big reveal yet, but we'll see.
So targeted versus crime of opportunity. And I almost feel like this is a
So there'll be more to this case then. That means I'm going to come back here and when we get medical examiner report and find out if he's going to plead guilty or go to trial or what, or if they're just going to kick him out of the country, or they're going to try him here. I don't know what they're going to do, but I definitely want to keep you posted. This is number 2 video. For you go back and watch the first one, and then I will definitely want to keep you updated on this case, because this is very similar to the other cases and like a mixed cross of them, but yet there's not so much attention to her. So don't forget who we're talking about, everybody. It's Laken Riley that we're talking about. A lot of people don't even know about this case. They're just glossing over it because they're so into the conspiracies of Brian Koberger and Delphi and all these other cases. Scott Peterson, even. They're giving Scott Peterson attention again when I thought he was on death row and locked up. Then they pull him out and take him off death row. And now he was in court today and they're looking to give him another case. It was either today or yesterday. I saw it this morning, but he was actually having a hearing about some DNA evidence in a van, about some, about the van that was across the street. And they did a burglary. Why would somebody that do a burglary kill a pregnant lady? That makes no sense at all. So I'm not confident that he's going to get another case, but I'm going to do a video on live on Scott Peterson and show you what the new updates are, because I did a video on him and I was waiting for the updates and I was waiting to bring them to you. All right, let's finish this.
Hybrid of sorts, potentially. Erica, what are your thoughts? And I want to put something else out there, which is what we know about Laken. She ran cross country in high school. She's a runner. She's like a runner, not someone who's going out for a jog. She's like an actual runner. Yet, whatever happened to her, whatever the circumstances are here, she was not able to run away.
Correct. So I think there is definitely an element of surprise there, Vinny. You know, she's somebody, as you mentioned, she was a well-known and well-trained athlete. So I look at things like strength and endurance and the ability to get away. That's, again, why I'm not convinced he acted alone yet. Time will tell. Crime of opportunity in terms of that question. I think we're going to have a very sloppy initial and secondary crime scene. I think that, you know, as Joseph and I have both mentioned, we're going to have some hopefully some evidence along the way, from touch DNA to blood to sweat to potential clothing, things that could have been, dropped along the way. So the other thing, I'm so sorry I lost my train of thought on that one. Pass to Jason.
That's okay.
It happens.
Jason, again,
we all lose our train of thought.
Cross-country runner who has competed. So she knows how to run. She's not out for a casual jog. She's a runner's runner. Unable to run away here. Her skull disfigured. She was dragged to the secluded area where her body was eventually found. What picture do you see about what happened here?
Well, I see, Vinny, Laken being an athlete, she was fit, she fought back. So usually these attackers resort to violence. They escalate their attack upon their victim, including resort to blunt force trauma, grabbing a rock or something, weapon of opportunity, when they're trying to get that victim to submit, because they were hoping that this victim would be submissive upon contact. But, she apparently fought back. She tried to call 911. And all of this is going to be recorded in that 911 call, and it's going to be central to making the case, including if the guy was trying to yell back and she's, calling things out, and maybe even a description. So we have to wait to see what all the evidence is. But I'm thinking she fought back. She fought for her life, and he probably had injuries sustained himself, defensive wounds, where it was easy to identify which of the two brothers were responsible for this horrific act. And it was pretty evident. And,
yeah, it seems like they're probably going to bring that into court for sure. And if they go to trial here, we don't know how that's going to work. My dog is yelling again. It's one of those days, everybody. So if they do go to trial, they may bring that in. If there's no DNA from him, they may try to bring a reasonable doubt about the brother. Let's finish this. So I grab.
Taken left or mark.
Joseph Scott Morgan, I get back to that question of why. I'm looking at this guy, like why? What is this sociopathic? Is this a guy? Is this a thrill kill? Is this someone who can't control himself, someone who may potentially be someone that's done this before?
Yeah, perhaps. And is there a method to the way he has attacked Laken and brought about the end of her life? I think that again, going back to what I'd earlier stated about the idea that, are there other victims, other attempts? Is there anything out there?
There probably are other attempts, everybody, and he's been charged for 2 crimes already in the United States. We don't know what he's done in Venezuela. And not only that, I always say people are guilty of crime, but they don't always get caught. So he probably was. And answering your question, Jackie, I wanted to, because I saw that why people do that, and they were saying that earlier. I don't think they think they're going to get caught. Most of these people are narcissists and psychopaths and all kinds of other diagnoses that they have. Eventually, they get diagnosed with it when they get into prison or while they're going on trial. They get diagnosed and they get all of these names. So they don't get diagnosed before most of the time until it's too late, unfortunately. But that's why they do it, because they don't think they're going to get caught.
Out there that kind of echoes this, where there's evidence that this is something, because, Vin, if and this, I know I'm preaching to the choir, but people that are, perpetrators like this, that act as predators, they have a methodology that they adhere to. They don't like to deviate from that at all, because they feel comfortable in that, if this is something that they've worked out the finer points. So that's something to certainly look at.
Joseph Scott Morgan, Erica Morris, Jason Jensen. Great to have everyone together tonight. Appreciate your time.
All right, everybody. We're going to stop this and we're going to stop. We are going to give our end thoughts and then wrap this up. I'm looking at everybody's comments, and it's so awesome when I have people here. I saw people coming in and out. That's great. Today I was trying to look for more content on cases that I'm interested in. Now I saw the Scott Peterson trial, but I did not, or I'm sorry, it's not the trial. Don't quote me on that. There was a hearing for Scott Peterson. Sadie's mama, I did not see the new trial date. At this point, all they're doing is testing the evidence to see if they're going to have a new trial. They can't go to trial without new evidence. So I don't think they have a new trial, but let that be a surprise to you when I bring the video out of what I have. But the Innocence Project is fighting for Scott Peterson at this point. They have been for a long time. He's off of death row. I did a video. If you go into my videos, you'll watch that and see where we left off. And then today, to me, it was breaking news. I saw him smiling in court. He was so thrilled to be, he was on Zoom, and he's an old guy now. Right around the age of me. He's 51. I'm 44, but he didn't know how to use his he didn't know how to use the Zoom function. So like me, mute, unmute, he's over there in court smiling, and the judge is getting frustrated. The judge is making these sighing sounds. So Scott Peterson did have a hearing today, and I'm not going to tell you what happened. I'm not going to tell you anything because you're going to have to watch my next video on Scott Peterson. But if you want to know more about Scott Peterson and what happened, go to my videos, watch that. I lived in Modesto at the time it happened. I went to the college there. I lived in Oakdale before that. Then I moved to Modesto. Now I've been in the Bay Area for 22 years. So now I'm in San Jose, Bay Area, but I was in the Valley where that happened with Scott Peterson, and I closely followed that trial, every bit and piece of that trial and the things he did. And I know there wasn't a lot of DNA evidence back then. And I'll tell you, that is why he is getting a look at getting a new trial, because there wasn't DNA evidence and they couldn't test that broken out van where there were burglars. There was some kind of DNA or blood on there. And so now the judge is letting them go back and test that. That's actually good progress for the defense and Scott Peterson, that the judge is even letting them look at that. So just know that, and know that I'm going to be back on here with that update and another video. So watch the other one before I go back on and tell you what happened. Yeah, the smiling picture is ridiculous. He should still be on death row. And if you watch the trial the first time, he was completely guilty to me. I'm going to stay on that stance. And if they prove me wrong, then so be it. But I don't think there's a new trial date. It hasn't gotten that far. And I hope Scott Peterson keeps smiling, because I don't think he's going to be smiling long, everybody. So, yeah, I agree. He's guilty as sin, everybody. I don't know how many ways I watched that case from so many different perspectives. And he's been living it up in prison. Girls have been messaging him. He's had love letters. He's got a lot of family support. So he's not struggling in prison. And he was very happy today to be back on TV. I'll tell you that. Jackie says, I know about a narcissist. I had to get out of mental and verbal, and now a protective order in effect right now. And Jackie, I'm glad that you recognize that and are dealing with it. And I hope you're dealing with your mental health as well. I'm glad you have a protective order. They don't do a lot. They do go on file, and hopefully they enforce that, because around here, a protective order is just a piece of paper and it means nothing. So I really hope that you stay safe from this person that stalked you. And are her parents saying anything? Carly, you're gonna have to find out. We're not talking about Scott Peterson right now. I'm gonna put a live together, and we're gonna do Scott Peterson. What's next? What happened at the hearing? What are they saying? What evidence do they have? How did they even get a new hearing? Everybody, that's not easy to get the judge's attention. A lot of times paperwork gets pushed across to the judge, and the judge denies it. So there's something there. There's something there, everybody. So we're gonna watch together. And I just wanted to say to everybody that's here today for the Laken Riley murder, the autopsy has been done. I don't have the paperwork on it yet, but the autopsy update was that it was her neck and her head injured really bad. It was a struggle. It was concentrated on that, really jagged into the skull, head wounds and neck wounds. So this girl probably was fighting off. Bless her heart, and prayers for her family that we find justice in whatever that means for us today. I don't know what's going to happen next with this case, but I'm very, very interested in it, not because of the conspiracy theories or anything other than it's something that's familiar to me. I live by a place like that, and my almost 70-year-old mom goes there and walks and does 7 miles all by herself, and I'm always worried. So yeah, that poor girl got attacked, brutally beaten, and in broad daylight, everybody. Broad daylight. And she knew. She called 911, D Berlin. She called 911. She saw it coming. She felt a threat. Whatever he said to her, I don't know if he was trying to kidnap her or what, but whatever he said to give her red flags, she knew, and she got her phone out and called 911. So that poor girl was scared. Before she got attacked, she was scared when she got attacked, and I'm sure that she died being scared. So pray for her family, and let's just send all the good vibes that we can to everybody. And I'm not religious at all, but I'm definitely spiritual. You can see my pictures behind me. If I had to pick anything, it would be Buddhism, and just, equal everything. Where there's black, there's white. Where there's black, there's white, there's gray. There's no right way. There's no wrong way. It's just your opinion. So keep that in mind at the end of the day, and know that we're talking about Laken Riley and her murder, and I will keep you updated. I also am going to do the Scott Peterson one next. I don't have it scheduled, but I also have the one scheduled for Ed Kemper. So I don't know. You guys keep making me come back. I got on here like 6 weeks ago, and now I'm on here almost every day. There's so many cases to cover, but I want to thank every single one of you for being here. Thank you, Carly, for being my moderator. I appreciate that. I need the help. And as my channel grows, and people are always going to have nasty comments, and I want to hear the nasty comments and the good comments, but I'm not going to give negativity to the nasty ones. So if I do, it's going to be a thank you very much. I appreciate your input. On that note, I love every single one of you. Have a good night, and that's awesome. You guys come back, D, Carly, of course, Jackie, Sadie's mama, the day oneers, all of you, and you have a good night. Watch my outro. True Crime Investigates. Anthony Greeno did it. He's the man. I'm out.
Guilty of crime.
I want to thank you for watching. If you enjoyed my content, please share this video, like, and subscribe. You can also follow me over at Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, X, or Gmail. If you'd like to donate to my channel, you can use Cash App or Venmo or PayPal. Thank you very much in advance. Guilty of crime.
Are you guilty?